the sheriffs, the police, or nothing.
They got to go today. What?
Sir, you cannot.
They can record all they want.
So you need to go to a lawyer.
They can record all they want. They getting out today.
Right, you hear that, Miss Buddy, right? So you need to get a report. Wait for the police to come.
Okay.
Okay, you can give me a call later.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Nah, we got to start packing stuff up today, man.
On Washington Street in Wilson, North Carolina, a normal evening turned violent when sudden gunfire broke the silence. Neighbors who were outside or sitting in their homes were startled by the sharp sounds of shots echoing across the block. Within minutes, multiple 911 calls brought police and emergency workers racing to the scene. When officers arrived, the area was chaotic, for people had been hit by bullets. 2 victims, later identified as 44-year-old Natasha Latrice Sutton and 21-year-old Avantae Pender, were found lifeless on the ground. Their bodies were quickly surrounded by officers who marked off the area. Their deaths were confirmed soon after, turning the quiet street into a crime scene. 2 others survived but were badly hurt. 37-year-old Tiffany Fogg suffered serious wounds and was rushed to the hospital in an ambulance. Another man, Tyron Sutton, was also shot but was able to receive treatment for less severe injuries. Both were taken from the scene as emergency crews worked to stabilize them. Detectives secured the block with yellow crime tape and began their investigation. Flashing lights from police vehicles illuminated the street as evidence markers were placed beside shell casings scattered on the pavement. Cameras captured the positions of the victims, the casings, and the surroundings, creating a full record of the deadly incident. Neighbors gathered nearby but were kept at a distance as officers worked. Some whispered quietly, pointing toward the flashing lights and the activity around the taped-off area. The scene stretched late into the night as law enforcement teams carefully collected every piece of evidence that could help explain what had taken place. By the time the work at Washington Street was complete, 2 lives had been taken, and 2 more people carried the scars of the gunfire. What remained behind was a section of road marked by police tape, chalk outlines, and a heavy presence of investigators who treated every detail as a clue. The deadly events on Washington Street would not stay contained to that night alone. Within hours, the investigation expanded and a suspect's name would emerge, linking the crime scene to a man known throughout the community. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Drop a comment below. Where are you tuning in from? What are your thoughts as this story unfolds? Your voice matters. These are real people, real tragedies, and real lessons we can't ignore. Share this video with someone you care about. It could make all the difference. Welcome to Unseen Crime Dossiers, your home for spine-chilling cases, haunting before mysteries, and deep dives into the world of crime. From jaw-dropping real-life events to groundbreaking forensic discoveries, we're here to uncover the truth behind the most gripping investigations. Step inside, examine the evidence, and lose yourself in the shadows of true crime. Natasha Latrice Sutton, age 44, was one of the 2 people who lost their lives on Washington Street. She was known in Wilson as a woman who worked hard to provide for her family. She rented property in the area, keeping ties to the same neighborhood where she would later take her final breaths. Natasha's life ended at the very place where she tried to build stability, leaving behind a name that will always be remembered in this case. Avantae Pender, only 21 years old, also lost his life that night. He was a young man just starting adulthood, still shaping his path. Avantae represented the part of Wilson's younger generation that was filled with energy and promise. His future was cut short on the same street where friends and neighbors once saw him living each day without knowing the tragedy ahead. Tiffany Fogg, age 37, became one of the survivors of the gunfire. She was rushed from the scene with serious wounds, but survived after receiving urgent care.
Your heart is ripped out of your chest.
I feel like somebody just stabbed me in my heart.
A fate they say they never would have expected.
I called my mama's phone, called my brother, and nobody answered. And then I called my cousin, and she told me, something had happened to my mom and my brother. And that's when I found out that they were gone.
Now it's hard to imagine not speaking to them again, especially their mom.
We talk almost every day. I didn't get my phone call this morning.
And she's always been the backbone through everything. She's the glue. And it hurts.
They say their mom, her husband, and brother had just moved into the apartment on Washington Street. Their landlord, Donta Chestnut, is now accused of shooting them, along with their aunt. Chestnut, the founder of R. Wilson, a nonprofit built around empowering youth, is now behind bars. Neighbors tell WRAL yesterday it's something they never could have imagined from someone who did so much for his community. This family says they'll never be the same.
It hurts me to my soul. I would never be able to pick up the phone to talk to my brother, to talk to my mom. I'm truly just lost for words.
Now they're looking ahead for answers as to why.
Now, Chestnut was in court today in Wilson County. He was given no bond and is still in custody. He'll be back in court on September 30th. Heidi Kirk, WRAL News, live in Wilson County.
The charges were serious. Authorities filed 2 counts of first-degree murder for the deaths of Natasha Sutton and Avantae Pender. Alongside those charges, Chestnut was also accused of 2 counts of attempted first-degree murder for the shootings of Tiffany Fogg and Tyren Sutton. These charges position the case as one of the most severe categories of criminal law in North Carolina. Once processed, Chestnut was transferred to a detention facility. Court records confirm his first appearance before a judge, where the charges were formally read. He was ordered to remain in custody while the legal process continued. The court's decision kept him behind bars as the community absorbed the news of his arrest. For law enforcement, the arrest closed the immediate search for the person responsible. Detectives turned their attention to preparing evidence, witness statements, and forensic details that would later be used in court. Each step in the process moved the case from a scene of violence into a matter for the justice system. The image of Chestnut changed overnight. Once linked to programs for youth and public leadership efforts, he now appeared in reports as a man facing life-changing accusations. The community could only watch as the same figure who had campaigned for a role in city government now faced the weight of the law. The arrests and charges brought the story into the courtroom, where every detail of the shooting will be examined and judged. The case of Donta Maurice Chestnut now carried not just the names of the victims, but also the full attention of Wilson and beyond. The city of Wilson carried the weight of the tragedy long after the crime scene was cleared. Neighbors spoke quietly on porches, sharing disbelief at how 2 lives were lost and 2 others wounded in one night. What had once been a normal residential street now stood as a reminder of grief, with flowers and candles placed where the gunfire had erupted. Families of the victims faced the most painful aftermath. Relatives of Natasha Sutton and Avantae Pender mourned their sudden loss, while the loved ones of Tiffany Fogg and Tyren Sutton prayed for recovery. Each family experienced different struggles, yet all were bound together by the same violent event. Their sorrow echoed through every church service, community meeting, and vigil held in the weeks that followed. Local leaders attempted to address the unrest. Public officials released statements calling for peace and strength, promising that justice would run its course. Faith leaders organized gatherings that brought residents together to share memories of the victims, creating spaces for collective healing. The gatherings did not erase the pain, but they offered structure to a community struggling to process what had occurred. For many residents, the shooting reignited conversations about safety. The fear that violence could strike again left families on edge. Parents reminded children to stay indoors after dark, and residents paid closer attention to unfamiliar faces in their neighborhoods. The once familiar sense of trust in daily routines began to feel uncertain. The case also stirred debate about leadership and responsibility. Some residents reflected on Chestnut's prior role in community work, struggling to reconcile his past image with the charges he faced. Others avoided conversation altogether, unwilling to connect his name to both public service and violence. The division added another layer to the tension surrounding the case. Social media amplified the reactions. Posts spread quickly across platforms, carrying both condolences and anger. Many shared photos of the victims, while others demanded swift punishment for the accused. The flow of information kept emotions raw, ensuring the story of the Wilson shooting stayed in constant public view. Despite the fear and division, the community displayed resilience.
A man accused of double murder now faces a new charge. Wilson police added a second charge for attempted murder for Donta Chestnut, as he accused of shooting 4 people yesterday.
And tonight we are learning more about the victims. This is Natasha Sutton and her son Avantae Pender. They were killed. WRAL's Heidi Kirk spoke with their family this afternoon. Heidi, their family really wants answers.
Well, Lena, the big question that their family members who we spoke with today is why would someone shoot and kill their loved ones? And that's a question that Wilson police officers here at the department in downtown Wilson have been looking into over the last 2 days. But at this point, we still don't know what the motive was. And of course, this is something that the family would really like to know.
These photographs of Natasha Sutton and Avantae Pender are some of the only living memories of this mother and son. Tatiana Rogers and Tyrone Brown say losing their mom and brother still doesn't feel real.
Your heart is ripped out of your chest.
I feel like somebody just stabbed me in my heart.
A fate they...
The defense also played a critical role. Lawyers for Chestnut raised points aimed at protecting his rights and testing the strength of the prosecution's claims. They examined the credibility of statements and sought to question how the events were linked directly to him. Their efforts reflected the principles of law, ensuring that every angle was considered before a decision would be reached. Inside the courtroom, the atmosphere was heavy. Relatives of the deceased filled the benches, listening closely to each word spoken. The injured survivors also attended, their presence a reminder of what had been lost and what had barely been preserved. Reporters and community members observed in silence, waiting as the legal system carried out its responsibilities. The court scheduled multiple sessions, spreading proceedings across weeks. Each day added new information, with motions filed and testimony given. The process was slow but deliberate, ensuring that nothing was overlooked. Every detail carried weight, from the timeline of events to the evidence collected by investigators. Outside the courthouse, media coverage intensified. Local stations provided daily updates, repeating the charges and the possible outcomes. Headlines highlighted both the seriousness of the case and the tension it caused in Wilson.
Are y'all listening to this man? Because it's not a lot like you. You know what I'm saying? And if that was to happen, right? What would have been like? Okay, I can't play, so. What would have been next for you? Did you have a second option, or was that your only option?
It wasn't no second option. It was just my life was football. I'm gonna make it to the college. I'm gonna make it to the NFL. Outside of that, it was the streets.
Yeah.
You know, I wouldn't been to the streets. You know, that's what that was going on around there. You know, that was the main thing to do.
Gotta go today.
What?
Sir, you cannot.
They can record all they want. They can record all they want. They getting out today.
The ruling addressed the deaths of Natasha Sutton and Avantae Pender and recognized the injuries suffered by Tiffany Fogg and Tyrone Sutton. The legal process concluded with a statement that justice had been delivered according to the law. For the families of the victims, the ruling brought a form of closure. It did not restore what had been taken from them, but it ended the uncertainty that had lingered since the night of the shooting. They left the courthouse knowing that the system had reached a decision and that the memory of their loved ones had been acknowledged through formal judgment. Chestnut's fate was sealed with the sentencing that followed. The court outlined a punishment, ensuring that accountability matched the scale of the crimes. The decision served as a reminder that actions carry lasting consequences and that the law responds firmly to violence of this nature. The aftermath spread beyond the courthouse. In Wilson, discussions about the case continued for weeks, shaping how the community processed the loss. Some residents saw the verdict as a step toward healing, while others continued to struggle with the lingering shadow of what had occurred. The city remained marked by the events, but the conclusion of the trial allowed for new conversations to begin. Media outlets documented every detail, broadcasting the final decision and summarizing the story from beginning to end. Newspapers, television reports, and online articles ensured that the case would not be forgotten. The story became part of the record of the city, stored in archives and remembered in conversations long after the trial had ended. In the end, the verdict and its aftermath represented more than one man's fate. It marked the closing chapter of a violent event that had shaken the community, taken lives, and left scars. The ruling stood as both an end point and a reminder, a sign that while justice had been served, the memory of the tragedy would remain part of Wilson's history. The Wilson shooting left a lasting imprint that extended beyond the courthouse and into broader memory of the city. Each detail of the tragedy became part of the narrative that residents carried forward, shaping how they viewed safety, accountability, and the fragility of life. The story did not disappear once the trial ended. Instead, it continued to influence conversations in homes, schools, and workplaces. The lives of Natasha Sutton and Avantae Pender were remembered through gatherings, tributes, and quiet moments of reflection. Their families kept their memories alive with photographs, stories, and the preservation traditions that honored them. Even in loss, the effort to protect their legacy ensured that their names would not fade from the city's history. Survivors Tiffany Fogg and Tyrone Sutton carried forward with resilience, serving as living reminders of the night's violence. Their paths to recovery highlighted both the physical and emotional challenges of survival. Their presence allowed the community to see not only the pain of what happened, but also the endurance required to continue living after such an event. The case also sparked broader lessons. Residents of Wilson spoke more openly about conflict resolution, the risks of unchecked anger, and the importance of community responsibility. The tragedy became a turning point, encouraging reflection on how easily lives can be shattered and how quickly ordinary spaces can become sites of disaster. For local leaders and organizations, the event underscored the need for stronger connections within the community. Programs addressing violence prevention and youth engagement gained renewed attention. While these efforts could not erase the past, they demonstrated a commitment to building a safer future and preventing similar tragedies from recurring. Media coverage kept the memory alive in another way. Documentaries, online discussions, and archived news stories ensured that the details remain accessible to future generations. The case became part of the documented history of Wilson, offering both a warning and a reminder that violence leaves long shadows. Ultimately, the legacy of this tragedy lay in the balance between loss and resilience. While 2 lives were taken and others were forever changed, the response revealed strength within the community. The reflections it inspired and the lessons it left behind became part of Wilson's identity, ensuring that the impact of the shooting would never be forgotten. Here at Unseen Crime Dossiers, we're driven by a mission to uncover hidden realities, honor forgotten voices, and keep their memories alive. If this story made you pause, reflect, or feel something, there's more coming that will challenge you even deeper. Make sure to hit subscribe, tap the like button, and turn on that notification bell so you never miss a case. We're dropping new episodes regularly, and trust us, what's ahead is even more chilling. Before you go, we want to hear from you. What moment hit you the hardest? Drop it in the comments. Your perspective matters, and your voice helps keep these stories alive. Until next time, stay alert, stay informed, and never stop seeking the truth, because every life deserves to be heard.